Yo, do you really want to look back 10, 20 years from now with this music and be like, the reason you didn't make it in music is because you ain't put in the work? The off season was like the same concept. Clarify and define your vision for yourself in the highest possible way that you can see it. Right at the apex of what your mind believes is possible, maybe push past that even a little bit and define it. And then number 2 is like, believe it. No matter how long it takes. Whether they're 10 years old or 30 years old, you have to see yourself in the highest, and the world will fill in the gap. It's a patience and a trust. It's a tightrope to walk, but I'm walking that shit.
The limitation isn't really the equipment, it's your brain. There's no limitation on what we can do.
The Big Eagle has landed in supersonic land. I am your host, Don Kemp. Nah, that's Sean Kemp. But I'm Don Cannon, #1 cosign. I'm in Seattle. Come to see the big homie, Jake One. You know what it is. Make sure you like and subscribe right here and go to shoptomorrow.com and get all your fresh joints. We here, BackTrak, baby. Jake Uno. Hey man, I flew all the way to the end of the earth to get this. This is special. I've been trying to do this for a minute. We've been talking about it. We spent a couple hours on the phone talking about it. But I made it to the end of the earth's goat farm to sit with another goat. I know what y'all know goat means, greatest of all time. This is my Bill Belichick. This is my Coach K. This is my buddy Ryan. This is my, you know what I mean? This is my Popovich, my Pat Riley, Jake One.
Oh man, thank you so much for coming, man.
My intros aren't as good as Sway's, but
that was.
I mean, this is a natural feeling. That's like this is great. This is the Coach K. I'm gonna say, Coach JAK.
There, I like it. I like it. I like it.
Oh, we are in Seattle, man. I saw the snow caps. I saw the water. And now I'm in here with the infamous vinyl that we all see online all the time, and the equipment, and our both of our number one weapon when going to war is the ASR 10. Glad to have you. Like I said, we've been trying to do this. Tell the people that don't know who you are, where you from, where you started.
Jake One, Seattle, Washington. Jake Uno on socials. Seattle, Washington. That's where I'm born and raised. I'm from. Man, I've been at this a long ass time. You have too, so this is why there's certain guys that like we have a very shared experience.
Facts.
So like when you start conversation talking about a tour in 2004, and I know exactly what you're talking about, you're in good company.
Yeah, I was talking about this tour because we did come up here and I went to see the museums, the music museums. I also did something with this company. They used to be out called Tits. It was funny.
Yeah, shout out B-Boy in there.
Yeah, so I did their party out here. They did a release. I did a actual shirt with Mr. Cartoon, Oriole, and I forget the shorty's name, but she's gonna get mad. But the shirt was out here. I did the shop, and I got a chance to move around and go to a couple stores, some sneaker stores at the time. This was about 2007. Your name came up so much in this city. And I was like, man, why he don't have a street sign? You know what I'm saying? If his name's coming up in this city, where's the street sign? But it was like, bro, back then, it was like, yo, you got to get with Jake. And the first time I think I met you was at one of Shy Money XL's.
Okay.
And I think it was maybe in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And we chopped it up for a minute. We was like, I think we went in the corner, was talking about some shit. We was like, man, this shit pirate, man. You know what I mean? We was on one of these times. I was like, damn, we brothers. Seattle's hip hop, Seattle's funk, Seattle's history, Jimi Hendrix, of course. What is it about this city that gives you a different vibe to where you're like, yo, most of us moved to New York. Most of us moved to LA, Atlanta, Miami, because the Atlanta opportunity. I was just walking down by the water on the way to the hotel, and I seen a guy's truck. It said Know Your Dogs. And I just stopped and talked to him. I don't really eat hot dogs, but I stopped and talked to him, and I was like, yo, how long you been in Seattle? He said, since 2017. And he had a deep New Orleans accent. And I was like, man, why'd you come here? Like, this is all the way on the other side of the earth. And he said, you want to be honest? I said, yeah. He said, this the land of opportunity. I came here. It's a lot of opportunity here, man. And he just had a truck. Do you feel like that about Seattle and the music scene, or just all in general? You think it's a good place to live in?
I think Seattle is a great place to live. Music wise, for what I do, it hasn't really played as much of a role in my success, I would say. It played a huge role in shaping me in the music I make, but like, we just haven't had that many things come from here where you could like plant your flag. I mean, we had Mix-a-Lot, obviously, who's a couple of generations before me. And then it was just a crazy drought. And then we got Macklemore. Luckily, I caught a couple with him. I didn't miss that train. Almost did.
You made it.
But I think what makes the guys that make music from here different is we're isolated. You flew a long ways to get here. So
you gotta do some music when you get here.
Right.
You got to, yeah.
And I think because we're a West Coast city, but we're not right next to the Bay. You can't just drive to the Bay. It's like 12 hours or something. So there's a weird like mix of like, we grew up listening to that stuff. I'd say the Bay was always the most influential thing here. But then we were also listening to the Gangstars and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of were just in our own bubble, and we came up with our own version of hip hop. You know, like at least the producers, really I would say, like
a lot of producers,
like The Business. Yeah. You know, shout out my guys. Obviously Vitamin D. Yeah. You know, there's been a couple other guys too. Malay.
Malay. Yeah.
Produced all the Frank Ocean stuff.
Is Rocky from here? Or
He's from Minneapolis, I think.
Okay, got you. Right.
So yeah, we've had some guys, but most guys do leave to make it. I mean, it's just because there's, you know, you're not going to run into the big artists down the street from you. So it's not happening.
Yeah. One of the times I came out here, so I came out here with Uzi when he was first starting his career, and we did the stadium. I think he was on fire at the time. We fly all the way up here, and they had the arena show. And he wasn't the closer, but they wouldn't tell us who the closer was. So I'm like, okay, cool. We're in the arena. I think it was like a small ice hockey arena, whatever it was. We went up to perform, and it was about maybe 10,000 people out there going crazy. And it was one of them fests, like the early fest. And we were like, yo, who's closing? Who's closing? We're thinking Eminem. Somebody, they're not letting us know. They're like, everybody move out the way, y'all. Clear out, clear out, clear out. The DJ was like, everybody put their lighters up and their phones up. And we saw everybody put their lights up and phones up. The person walking on stage was not who I thought it was going to be, but he had total control, and it was Russ.
Damn.
It was like, we were like crazy because we never heard of him. This is the first time I ever heard of him, nothing. And then, you know, I got some history of him at the actual event, and they were saying, yo, dude's been coming here. He does excellent in this area and whatnot. But I found out he was from Atlanta.
Right.
But he was living up here. And I was like, that's interesting to see that many hip hop fans in Seattle to have, like, you know, somewhere from a Uzi to a Future to Russ.
Right.
And he's headlining was
I wouldn't have called that one.
Yeah, it was a big deal. We didn't know, but it was set up like, and the reason I'm mentioning that is in this hip hop age, it's hard to find producers like us that've been generational. Right. Like you've done the bottom of, you know what I mean? Boom bap all the way to Future, Weekend, like Nip, like, you know what I'm saying? I never could explain this to somebody, but how can you explain balancing and then being able to relate to street artists, boom bap artists, R&B artists, and still remain the same?
Still do me?
Yeah.
I think when you never have full control over what's going on, you know, you're not having that, like, everybody has to come to you to do whatever you're doing.
Yep.
You got to find your way in everything. And my goal always was never to just only make music that appealed to backpackers or wherever. Even though that's where I come from, right? But I wouldn't say that's my favorite music all the time, right? I wanted to make something that everybody thought was good, but doing what I want to do. I mean, there was still that hard-headed nature that I wasn't like going to just, because everybody's doing 808 beats right now, I'm doing those. Nah, I never really did that.
Right.
Or, you know, whatever the different eras of you know, trends, I didn't quite chase that, but I did find a way to insert myself into those things. And a lot of it was just, you know, getting out the way. Like, I'm doing beats by myself all the time. I'm hip hop dude, hard drums. When that's not the thing, the pivot came with the loop stuff.
Yep.
And I can't say I was even really going for that, but when I saw the success of it, I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm doing this now. I thought I wasn't even gonna do beats anymore after a while, because I'm like, nobody wants me to do beats.
Yeah.
You know, when I got with Southside and the other guys, like, you couldn't have told me that was like 2 years before that happened. That was not what I was going for. You know what I mean? So I think if you do this long enough, if you're going to stick around, you have to be able to pivot.
Yeah.
But you also have to have something unique to contribute. Like,
That's right. That's right.
And I think, you know, that ear I got from listening to all them records, and, you know, when I started making samples, I probably had a different take on it than other guys who are just making their stuff on Fruity Loops or whatever it is, or, you know, plugins. Yeah. So I had a different sound, right? I just laugh because at this point I enjoy doing something that makes no sense.
Yeah,
for what my history is.
I laugh at it too because you know, we've had our conversation in Mean Streets, and I'm just like, man, for somebody like you that's had this many classics, and then you're in a conversation and you meet somebody new, maybe you meet like Playboy Carti, for instance, and you shake his hand. So what joints you did? You tell him some of them joints. You might say Freeway. You might say some of your favorite. I might jump in and say, man, don't you know he did that joint for Future and them on the, He'd be like, oh, word. How does that feel to like, people like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Then like, word, over something like that. Right.
Well, I remember one of the early times that really hit me was when you first had Jack, and he was like, you were like, Jack doesn't even know you make beats. He thinks you're just a loop maker. And I'm like, it makes sense for whatever, if that's the era you come from, that was what the success I had was. And it was the most commercially successful stuff I probably did. So like, I'm cool. I'll be a loop maker. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm good with that. Like, but I'm going to do whatever I feel like doing, and I'm going to try to find a way to make money on it. Right? Like,
I mean, it's part of the game too. Cause, you know, again, coming from DJing and doing certain things, I almost was scratching and, you know, battle rapping. That was a form of loop making. Right. I just didn't add no drums. Right. So if somebody would say, yo, record that, that's dope, let me rap on it. That's the same thing as the loop makers. You know what I mean? And what I saw, going into your high school, what was some of the things that you were listening to in high school? Some of those things, because I feel like high school shapes our ear.
I think in general, whatever I was listening to before I started making music and competing, it was way more special to me. And I think we all feel that way, right?
Facts.
Because you're not tainted by the business stuff or whatever, you know. It was a lot of Premier. Yep. There's a lot of the Bay Area stuff, E40 affiliated stuff. I mean, obviously whatever Dre was doing was huge. DJ Quick was a big one for me because I always liked the way he combined like the live playing with the samples. Like,
Quick was nasty.
It was still fundamentally hip hop, but he was taking it somewhere different. But it was a lot of that stuff. And then, you know, like in my high school, Vitamin had a group. I thought their group was super dope. Yep, I thought they were as good as anybody. So, you know, I got to see somebody in front of me doing it, which made it real, you know?
Yeah. Training wheels, I always talk about this. DJ Premier was the person I pat myself on making beats from maybe 10 years old to about 17, 18 when my training wheels fell off. I began to ride on my own. Did you have somebody like that?
I think we all had different stages of that, right? Yeah. And I'd say when I first was making beats, it was probably like Pete Rock, Premier, Dr. Dre. That was too hard to do. Like
bro. That's why I was like, man, he's too far gone.
He had the army of musicians and every keyboard, and the sound was just so much better what we were able to do. But like of those guys, at least you'd be like, okay, they took this record that my dad has, this jazz record, and they put these drums on it, and then they added this stuff, but still way better than the one I can do.
Yeah.
But at least it seemed tangible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are my early beats for sure. I mean, we all were making fake Premiere beats. I felt like that was just, you know, there were some were better than others. One of the beats I did early in the like late 90s for a local label out of here, Premier came on tour with Gangstar, Moment of Truth tour, and he played the beat. That's what they came out to.
Whoa.
And it just made, I don't know. I'll never forget. I didn't meet him then.
He just played.
I didn't know that. He just played my beat.
Yo.
And like, I'm probably never going to feel that way again. You know what I mean? Like, this is the shock of that, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, we first heard Dilla, late 90s. I think we were all wrapped in that, you know, and eventually you kind of put your own twist on it. You know what I mean? Like,
I did get in this space where I felt like the first rapper that told me, I think his name was Alton. And the first rap he was 17. He was like, bro, you actually better than a lot of the people I be hearing making beats out here at this age. He's like, we never gonna get a premiere beat. He was like, we never just let me freestyle all those instrumentals, but make me some stuff like this.
Right.
And develop my ear, because I used to always like clean up the house and hear horns, and my ear would just, it just was a bug that caught me, and like, bro, sample horns, infectious horns. Mm-hmm. Is there an instrument that you love that you always can go to, even if you don't sell it, it satisfies you?
I think the last, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years has probably just been some of the background vocal stuff. Like when I hear that, I just feel like I can put a beat around any of it. And I know, you know, what chords I want to play around it. There was definitely like the horn blast era, you know what I mean? Like I think the more music I started learning and how to play more, started getting maybe a little too jazzy at times. I think that's always like what happens when you learn a little music. It gets a little too soft.
That's the number one rule. Don't sound too jazzy.
Don't do that. So then it was kind of like, how do I make this stuff jazzy and dark? And then, I mean, I'd say the last year, I've just like, how do I make beats that are hard to get? I like forgot. And even thinking back to like those G-Unit times, like he really just wanted that beat that was going to be like a bar that repeated that was hard. And then you find the thing to turn around with it. That was like the thing. So I feel like a lot of times I'm learning to go back to what I did before in a new way.
As an ASR 10 brethren, let's talk about this sequencer. I've always had an issue with this sequencer. We always had to link it up with like an MPC or something.
Right.
The MIDI time clock was off. I remember going in super sessions and having to track out. And one of the things is I started using the X Pro, the box, because I used to travel with it. When I first had this, I was going to Atlanta, and it's the most heaviest keyboard you can have. Like, I don't care what keyboard it is. This is one of the heaviest things. Right. I'm like, bro, why did they make this joint so heavy? You know what I'm saying? I recently visited High Tech, and in the studio he's working in, he had an 88. It was the first time I ever saw it.
Those things are in my tank.
And I was like, yo, I can't imagine like going to a session and having to bring that to Patchwork Studios, you know what I'm saying?
You need 3 people to carry that thing.
This sequencer, man, how did you get around like the imperfections of the looping of the machine?
Right. I started with a 16 plus, so there was a version in Sonic made called there was a 16 and a 16 plus. So I started with that. It's just like a lesser version of this, but you know the thing I think why all the different people that make beats on this don't sound the same is because the sequencer didn't do the work for us.
Yep.
So we did find our ways around it, and that's like less quantizing.
Yep.
I noticed you can't really come in on the one.
You can't. That's
you got to start your beats on the snares, which kind of created a weird style. Like
it did. Everybody had that sound.
You know what I mean? For whatever reason, it comes around good if you start on the snares. So I would chop from the snares and let it come around. But then when you do the next sequence, it created kind of some fuckery in your,
all the time, bro.
But there was a magic in that.
There was the magic in it.
And then, you know, I think the big secret on this thing, or not even a secret, but was the way you shift tracks, right? So even if you quantize, you got to move things left or right like you would on the computer screen.
That's right.
And I would play with that crazy, or I would shift one snare this way and the other one this way.
Yep.
There was another trick I was doing where I would start like, I would have like 5 different kicks laid out and maybe the same snare 4 times. And I would have them at different start points and quantize them all and then mess with the start points to get it to move weird, you know?
Yeah.
So there's all kind of little things that we would do, but I think it got us to like create something unique, you know?
Yeah.
And I think, because I make beats on Pro Tools too. I make beats on Ableton. They're good, and some of those have been like hit songs, but I don't know if they're exactly as unique as like what I will do on this thing.
Yeah, I know what High Tech was saying. He had this type of superpower that when he heard people's beats, he could be like, that was on the Kronos. That was on the ASR. That was on the MPC.
Yeah.
This definitely have a specific sound. This is by far the cleanest one I've seen. These are pearly white teeth.
Right. So
you know what I mean?
I've
never seen this.
I bought this one like a year ago because the one I made like almost everything on, well, the last 10 years, the button was broke, all the classic things. And one day I was like, I couldn't get to save. I was like, you know what? Let me just buy a new one. Bought this shit on eBay. And then I was like, oh, this shit works. And then I just like.
Was it super expensive?
It's like $1,500. And then when I got it, I'm like, why did it take so long to buy a new one? What was I thinking? Like, this is how I make my money. What am I doing?
I never had keys. Like, all mine are yellow. I still have some of the original ones. I'm like, this is clean.
This one's pretty crispy.
I see 1 or 2 imperfections.
Yeah, it's pretty crispy. And this shit got sent in the mail. So.
Yo. Man, you got to thank him. He probably was.
He packaged it pretty good. Yeah. Exactly. He wasn't in there making beats. That's for sure.
Yeah. Going on the road, we were talking about this off camera. Being the person you are and having to go to Atlanta to work with a T.I. without sending beats, a New York. What was the pain like traveling?
Man, New York was everything though.
It was.
I think when I first was starting to do stuff, New York was like just the mecca. I would get there and just be like, oh my gosh. This street, they rapped about this. It's like I still do that when I go to New York. But it was also all the artists we wanted to work with were there at that time.
Yeah.
And it was all happening there. And, I'd be excited to go to a label, like,
Nice.
Oh, you going to let me go into Def Jam? I'm looking around like, who's in here? Oh, I've heard of this A&R, I sent this dude beats before, on a FedEx or something.
Yeah.
When I first started entering that world, though, and like the dudes like Dante Ross and Sean C. and Riggs, all these guys embraced me, right? They were just like, I'm their little homie, and they liked my beats, right?
Too.
So they would let me come up there and play beats, and that was a big deal coming from here, from Seattle.
For sure.
Guys weren't doing that, So yeah, it was incredible, man. I don't know. I almost moved there in like 2001, and then like 9/11 happened. I just got cold feet. It wasn't because of that necessarily. I just was never the dude that was just gonna jump out the window and be like,
big move, bro.
Hip hop's gonna do this for me and take care of me. I just never believed in it like that. You know what I mean? I didn't have anybody to see do that. So it's hard to really believe that you can make a life out of this,
Right.
At a while, I was like, damn, I'm just landing too many records. I need to quit my job. So, I didn't quit my job till 2006.
Oh, word?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had a job like a lot of the early stuff I did.
Wow. What kind of job was it?
I was working at the courthouse just as like a file clerk. So
okay.
I would be...
That's good money, though.
It was decent,
Yeah, it was good money.
I'd be working and like Busta Rhymes would call me on my sidekick or something.
Yo, that's crazy, man. Yo. Not yo. Right.
Just yelling, you know what I mean? Of like, next to one of my coworkers like, it's Busta Rhymes,
Biggest call you've got in your career for production. What you think that was?
Man, I'd say the Dr. Dre one. I think that was like definitely my hero growing up. I was mixing my album White Van Music with Vitamin, and I was in the studio, and one of the A&Rs over at Aftermath, this dude, Mike Lynn. Mike Lynn called me with Dre on the phone. Dre was like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because I'm loving this shit. And the funny thing is, there was a picture of Dr. Dre on the wall.
Wow.
I had him on speakerphone and stuff. But all the producers I looked up to were all signed there. So
yeah,
High Tech, Khalil, Denine. Those are like the guys I love their beats. So just validation, right? Like,
I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Was this while you were the file clerk? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, that was...
Yeah.
Oh.
No. It was right after.
Okay.
Right after. Okay. I just quit my job.
Okay. I was about to say, man, Dr. Dre, man, they're gonna be like, why are you still here? Somebody gonna put some pressure on you, like
my coworkers and my boss and my dad. Everybody was like, "Why are you still working? Like, what are you doing?" And I don't know. I just didn't. There's something about. I just didn't want to go back. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want there any doubt that I was going to have to go back to that job.
You're right. I got this segment that I do now. It's called Live and Die Hip Hop. I'll give you an example of it. And I've done this before. On a live side, it's the most positive thing I did for my passion. I would live and die for hip hop. And then I had the opposite of the arena. I got to tell this story because this is the most impactful story. Leslie Brathwaite, mixer. Him and his friends were in LA. They went to a record store when Low End Theory came out. And he went to the store. He was so excited to hear this album, right? And he was like just in love with hip hop at the moment. He was listening to this this joint. And his friend's like, come on, man, we in LA, let's party. Da, 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 da. He's like, nah, I want to listen to this album, man. Y'all go ahead and have fun. It's like, oh, come on, man. He's like, oh, I'm telling you, this is the best thing. He's like, he said the first, you know, I guess it was Excursion. You know what I'm saying? When Edgar came on, for what he told me, he was like, y'all go ahead, man. I'm going to catch up with y'all later. Like, all right. They left. They died in a car accident. And he was listening to that album. And he always brings that story up as something like he was so passionate about. People do so much for it. I always tell the story how when I was younger, my mom would send me for groceries and I would still have the groceries and go buy records with the rest of the money. Like these are all things he fought for our passion. Are those any moments or do you have moments like that where you felt like, man, I'm doing this for my love? And
I just think about like when I used to wake up and go to work when I just didn't want to, like, and or you know, I would say my best days in those times was when I would like call in sick, and just drive to Portland to buy records. You know,
wow,
I would do stuff like that.
That is something.
Because that was for me. You know what I mean?
Something. How far was Portland?
Portland's like 3 hours. It's funny. So one of the records I bought one of those days, I made the song I quit my job with.
Wow.
Which was, I don't know, Officer off the G-Unit soundtrack. That was kind of the final straw where I'm like, I'm quit. It was stuff like that, you know, just, I think I appreciated making music so much.
Right.
Because I was just hyped to do it because, you know, it was still a dream. There's all kind of things where I could have went one way and chose to do the obvious thing. And I think I'm just stubborn like that. I just want it to be my way. When these times when guys would be like, oh, we need to do beats, or, you know, a label will tell you, like, do up tempos. I'm making slower beats.
Right.
I was hard-headed like that. I still am. So as soon as somebody tells me I have to do something, I don't want to do it.
Bro, I'm the same way, bro. In one sentence, I'm going to name a couple of things, and you tell me what that person means in one sentence, or the thing that means. DJ Khalil.
Man, just brother. Like, and another guy, very similar to you, we have such a shared experience. You know what I mean? Like, and me and Khalil is even weirder because he's actually born in Seattle. His dad was on the Sonics.
Right.
You know, we both, our big first record was on the G-Unit first album.
Yep.
We both were like making bangers and all that. And then nobody wants bangers no more. And now we're making loops. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we're loop makers. And just, you know, a guy that's like, he's underappreciated, obviously, but always just has something unique to deliver with the music. Like, I think as producers, a lot of us, we only respect people that made stuff that made us mad, right? Like Khalil's made some beats. I'm just like, I'm just never going to be good as this.
Bro. I'm jealous, bro.
He's another one.
You make so much of the shit. I was like, bro, there's some records people ask me about top 10 that you made. I'm jealous of that. It's something that I was like, damn, I should have made that fucking beat. Or could I have made that beat?
Right.
You know
those are the kind of like, if you don't have one of those songs, we're probably not looking at you in that way. Not that people aren't great at making beats and all that. They might be better, but it's still more about that hearing that song that you just be like, oh, I got to start over.
Yeah.
And Khalil had a beat tape that did that to me one time.
Bro, I can imagine. Tuxedo.
Man, how? Like, how did I end up there? There's, you know, we just got done putting out our 4th album and I went on tour and I'm playing keys now. I'm singing backgrounds, I'm dancing. I'm just like, how did I end up here?
How did y'all end up there?
You know, that was just, you know, Tuxedo was something I made. I started making that stuff during the end of the G-Unit era because I was just tired of making beats that were hard. I was like, and I started learning how to play a little more. Shout out to G Coop, you know, my piano teacher.
G Coop, what's up, brother? That's my man right there.
You know, Hitmaker to the Stars.
But I think you introduced me to him.
Of course.
That's how I started getting the loops on compositions.
He showed me how to play a few chords and I just kind of ran with it. And then I met Mayor Hawthorne. He wasn't Mayor Hawthorne at that point. And we just kind of had this weird shared love of this stuff.
Record collector?
He was more of a DJ and he was a hip hop producer at that point.
Facts.
So, you know, fast forward a couple of years, he became a singer and started making songs and ran around the world. And it's been like 10 years. And like, that's been the strangest, cool thing that's probably happened to me because I just never really saw myself as being somebody on stage or even being in a group. I'd never even been in a production team, group, no, nothing.
Yeah.
So No, it's been incredible. And like, you know, I feel like a lot of our fans that are into that, they don't even know my past really. They don't know that this is kind of the thing we do is more what I'm known for.
Right. Freeway.
It's another brother, man. Like another guy that I really wanted to work with. I was like probably his biggest fan when, even before Philadelphia Freeway came out, he had like a mixtape. I was just like,
The mixtape is crazy.
This dude, the way he raps is so unorthodox. You never know what you're going to get with him. And then just like, you know, you go on tour with somebody, you do all that kind of stuff, like just knowing the person and just how good of a guy he is, you know, like
facts.
He'll do anything for you. He does too much for people. You know, I'm always telling him that. I'm like, you gotta be a little more selfish sometimes.
Yeah.
Make better decisions for yourself.
You do.
But genuine, you know what I mean?
Super.
And a real legend. And somebody that I feel like we don't give people that have unique styles like that enough credit. Like, he's just a different guy. The way he raps is different all the time.
1,000% different.
You can't copy that.
1,000%. I'm going to get into finances a little bit. Pub deal, did you do one?
I did my first pub deal in 2006. Yeah, I was after I quit my job. Yeah.
Okay, so that was the old school NDRC.
Oh, man.
Where'd you do it at?
I did it at Sony. Shout out to Juan Madrid.
Juan.
Still my boy to this day.
What's up, Juan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, you know, like maybe in the long-term grand scheme of things, not the smart thing to do, but like I was like probably 29 years old and hadn't really made any money. So if you put some hundreds of thousands in front of me, I'm going to think that's a lot of money, right? And it was a lot of money. It still is a lot of money. So somehow God let me get out of that publishing deal.
All of us.
And I fulfilled the MDRC in like 2010. And I feel like I'm one of the rare people when I got out of that thing, I've started making way bigger songs.
I did the same
And that's
thing.
when I had my run. And then I never did a pub deal again. I've just been doing admin deals. So luckily I got burned on that, but I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
And I had a second app to actually get it back.
Right. First check you ever gotten off a record and was like, whoa, I'm doing this.
There was this dude, Prozac Turner, who was signed to DreamWorks.
Okay.
Which wasn't around that long, but they had money. So my manager at the time, Walt, hooked me up with him, and I did one beat and got 20 grand.
Whoa.
So his album, though.
What year was that?
This was like 2002, 3, something like that. This is when the budgets were still in there. I caught that, and I think I was making like 30 grand a year in my job at that point. So like,
you made your whole salary 1 year.
yeah. So that was incredible. Yeah, it's weird because the longer I've done this, it used to be like, what's the most you can get for a beat? And then you zoom out and you're like, well, I want to make the most a year off a song. Fuck that one time thing, right? So I feel like we're playing a totally different game now with trying to get pieces of the master and all these other things that matter now more in the streaming era. So even now you have to like, you know, adjust all the time and do what makes sense for that moment. Cause somebody gives me 20,000 for a beat now, like, yeah, I guess that's great. But it's not to me, because you're probably never going to get no money after that, right? Like, unless it's a big artist.
Yeah, for sure. The budgets get bigger as
Right.
they get older. A couple more questions before we get into the actual process. John Cena. We recently posted this on the network, and it was like, people was coming like, bro, I didn't know he did that. I'm like, man, I must be that old that I know all this stuff.
Right.
And sometimes I do feel like a grandfather because I had these stories. I always compare myself to Above the Rim with Flip, you know. Flip was like always telling these stories like, you don't know that, young blood. We used to blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, damn, you old, bro. You telling all these stories. But I feel like they didn't even know that. I'm like, well, who did y'all thought made it? Like, you know what I'm saying? But it came to that point when we posted it that the traction was like, yo, what? They didn't even know a hip hop or somebody that made hip hop had a chance to do that.
Right, because I made that really early in my career, right? So like, you wouldn't really think that person would go on to do what I managed to do. It doesn't really add up, you know, like any of it.
Where did it come about? Like, how did that happen?
My manager at that same time, Walt, met Cena at KML, I think, in the Bay.
Wow.
And just gave him a beat CD, and that's coming out. So I ended up doing 6 beats for him.
Wow. That was a big one though.
Yeah,
that was like, I still hear that. Like,
right,
I don't know, video games.
It's still going. It's still going. And, you know, at the time, it was just like, I wasn't watching wrestling. I wasn't like a wrestling fan at that point in my life. So I didn't really know. I didn't know who he was. And I remember they were like, yeah, he's going to do it tonight on TV. So I watched it on TV. And I was like, man, it's kind of cool, you know.
That's it. That's cool, man.
But
we didn't know about wrestling. If it had been Michael Jordan and the Bulls,
right.
You might have been like, oh, okay.
And you know, you also don't know when you do things that they're gonna live for 20 years, right? Like there's some things are so big in the moment and they kind of go away, and then some of them just keep going. Right.
I see that you're jumping into this golf thing. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You got swing.
Yeah,
you know
that's all I do now.
In the golfing world, is that something that takes your mind off of music and gets you super inspired to hear things? I know when I go out and I'm traveling, I do it everywhere. I just went to a juice bar down there by the farmer's market, and I heard some joint called, was Cooking Soul, and it was called Anime Storm, and I was like, I just Shazammed it. I walk around and Shazam it, and I'll probably have a Seattle playlist of all Shazams of me moving around. Is that something that you do when you're golfing? Is it something like, oh, I'm playing golf, this is taking my mind off of having to go and create or, you know, having a deliverable for a beat tape for somebody?
I think it's weird because golf is probably the first new hobby I had since I started making music. And, you know, during COVID, we couldn't do anything, but that was, I started playing during COVID because it's the only time you could really go outside and do anything with your friends.
Makes sense.
And I think just the being competitive, playing sports growing up, getting old, body falling apart, can't really play basketball no more because...
You were super basketball.
Yeah, I was playing basketball like 5 days a week even at that point.
You were super basketball.
So it just was like a new challenge. It was fun to get better at something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then I started playing so much that I'm like, damn. And then I have like, one of my friends is always telling me, shout out to Justo. He's like, man, I'm telling you, you're going to play too much golf and fall off. Like, you know, they have a tracker that, you know, when CEOs play too much golf, their companies go down the toilet.
Oh, my God.
You know, so sometimes that shit will be in the back of my mind. I'm like, man, I'm going to actually work hard before I go play golf today.
Facts.
Which is crazy. But anything to get my mind not thinking this is work, I'm down for it.
Yeah.
Like, I think when you do something this long, it's getting to those places that it just gets back to fun.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Record shopping. When I used to go dig, I had this guy, Gene Brown.
Shout out Gene Brown.
Shout out to Gene. I was shopping before this. I started shopping records maybe 12 years old, 13 years old. But when I went to Atlanta, I started meeting people.
Right.
I was shopping with Gene 2006, 2007, and his ear was incredible, man. He would just be like, yo, I have these 10 records. It costs this much. But this bag right here, they always be like, yo, Pete coming to get this bag today. I can't sell you this. I'm like, no, I gotta go through it. I gotta see what you pulled out the rabbit hat. Right. You know what I'm saying with that. I started my digging process by actually finding a record I like and then going to get whatever musician was on the back of those records everywhere. I just bought them. Even though some of those records weren't good, I just wanted to have certain things. You know, I wanted to go find everything that Curtis Mayfield and his people was a part of. You know what I'm saying? Was that a process for you? I know that you've gained a love for gospel records and those sounds, and it's probably due to the vocals and how that new chopping up. When you're buying records, do you still look at a cover and say, this cover is interesting? Or do you say, bro, fuck the cover, I'm looking at the instruments, who's playing what, if I know one of these guys?
I think I've had phases of the record thing where like there was at one point it was purely like the function to make beats. And then at some point I just became collector, right? Like it's like baseball cards. I'm just like, nah, I just got to have this one. And then, you know, you start getting into like, ooh, am I going to buy the $1,000 45? Am I going there? Am I that guy now? And it's the one thing I'm probably like outlandishly fiscally irresponsible about. But it's, you know, as a kid, that was always my dreams, to go to the record store and buy every tape.
That's a fact.
Buy every record. So, you know, you get older, you have the means, you just do this shit.
Right.
It's weird because I sample sometimes. I wouldn't say I'm always even sampling.
Well, like, actually listening or just like to look at the collection?
I'm just, sometimes it's baseball cards to me. Sometimes it's like purely like, ooh, I'm gonna make something out of this.
Right.
A lot of times when I hear something in the store and I think that's gonna happen, it's not what it turns out to be.
Yeah. That's
But, you know, also just getting to travel the world, going to Japan, Europe, all these things, it's like you just get to see everything. It's all in front of you. And it's like, you know, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm going stupid. But the records and just that knowledge of the music is just the fundamental talent I have. Like to hear what was good when I was first taking my dad's records, and he had like a pretty good jazz collection. So I listened to like a Charles Mingus album he had, and I'm like, Premier sample this one, but there's another part on here, you know, and that's how you see yourself in it, right? Yeah. It's still the thing. I probably still have I still spend more time on my records than anything else. Like
most you spend on a record. On one piece of vinyl.
It's 2000 on a 45.
Where were you?
That was on Discogs.
Yeah, so sometimes I would spend a lot of money on a record and be like, I just entrepreneurship. I'm gonna make it back when I sell the beat.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But there's other times where I bought, like in my DJ phase, I just bought things to play. I was super competitive. Like I seen Madlib in Philly one time, and he was DJing.
He's just like, I want boxes of records.
So he was DJing, but he put covers on all the stuff, so you didn't know. It was no Shazam then, you know what I'm saying? And that was the culture for a minute.
Old school cover.
Especially for like those guys, Questlove, I seen him do it. And it was like, you wouldn't dare ask him what record it was. You know what I'm saying? You had to be in that cult.
The record guy brotherhood is some whole other shit. And it's not always producer guy. I feel like my producer guy record brotherhood is totally different than like psycho record guy. Like, I mean, I got those homies too.
Yeah.
And they don't even respect the producer guys. They're like, this is some basic shit.
Bro, I ran into them. They're like, they want to tell me about everything about the records. They don't want to hear nothing about producing, what I want to sample, nothing. They're like, it's like almost like the skateboard culture. Like, you know, if you do too much, it's like, hey, man.
Yeah.
Get out of here. You know what I'm saying? You get out of here. You know, I spoke to Gene Brown recently, and he does these beat battles. And he still has records, but he's transferred into, MP3s a lot.
Yeah.
In these communities, do you find some type of competitive spirit when they call you to say, yo, I want you to go against Just Blaze at the Sound Clash? Man. Is it something that you
well,
like
when Gene called me for that one, to do a set with Just, I was just like, yeah, I don't think I got enough for that. that was my first initial reaction. I'm like, but me and Just are really friends, so it's like different. We talked about it, and it was more like we're playing off each other.
That's right.
I can't beat him in a song battle. Come on, this dude got like 30 Jay-Z songs. Like, who's beating him? Like, not many people are beating him. Yeah. So it was fun doing it in that way because like he would play, a T.I. song, and I play my T.I. song, or he would play The Game, and I play a Nipsey song. It's like, we have so many answers, and parallels and that stuff, Mm. He got a song, I did Rock Cocaine Flow. He had a song he did with the same sample.
Right.
So
that was cool. That
was
cool. I did see that. That was
all
cool.
That kind of stuff is cool. But I mean, honestly, I just feel honored to be in the class of somebody like that. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it just means, I hate to be the LeBron. I'm just a kid from Akron, but like I'm from Seattle. Like I wasn't supposed to do this. Like I really wasn't supposed to do this. So
that was cool, man. That was cool to see. And I was like, man, most of us will take on the challenge, but most people are scared.
Right.
I just never get why they would be scared.
Well, it's like if you're just totally outclassed, then yeah, you probably don't want to do it. But if it would have been like a hostile battle, if he just was licked off like 30 Jay-Z songs on me, yeah, I probably have felt some way.
But the thing about it, you're so confident in humbleness, you're just like, hey man, my ass got kicked.
Right.
Shit, I'm still fired.
And I'm just like, I already did what I did. Like the discography don't lie. So like,
that's a fact.
I think we're in a stage where now it's like about a lot of look at me, right? But it's like all that look at me can't replace like, you got 10 songs that the general public knows. You know what I mean? Like, that's way more powerful than any of this other shit.
I want to get into, because you're a hip hop historian in my brain, and a purist, best decade of hip hop.
Man, I hate how everybody just shits on anything past the 90s. I hate it.
I do too.
But at the same time, yeah, I'm probably gonna go the 90s. And it's just a function of age and stuff too, right? Like if I was in high school and, Blueprint came out, I'd probably say it's 2000s, you know what I mean?
That's true.
I love that shit a lot too. And that like that album in particular, when I heard that, I'm a full backpacker at that point, right? So like, it was the first time I heard music that was successful that sounded like shit I liked.
There you go.
Because I think the stuff before that was like just blatantly commercial, right? It didn't have that edge of the shit that we liked. It wasn't, like Black Moon or, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff, more of the bangers. And Hove, just by him being him and getting on that stuff, made it popular.
You have a favorite year? My favorite year is 96.
96 is a good one. Damn, I never even thought about that. I like 95 a lot because that's like Cuban Links and all that, right? 94, obviously.
Incredible.
I mean, I will say, even what year did Blueprint come out?
I want to say
is that 2001?
Yeah.
That was a great year too.
That was a great year. And I only picked 96 because, again, I was a little bit more into the mixtape era too. So I had all the albums.
Right.
Plus I picked up a gang of mixtapes. Probably at that age, I was probably the brokest I probably was at like 16 years old, but I spent the most money on music.
Right.
Just going to, getting Method Man's album, Reasonable Doubt came out. You heard all them D'Angelo joints, not even just hip hop, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I just had an argument about who won the 90s, West Coast or East Coast.
Oh, West Coast. It's not even close.
Okay, so now that's
it's not even debatable.
So the biggest thing that happened in the West Coast in the 90s was
The Chronic or Snoop's album.
Okay, so you'll go there. So a lot of people said Tupac. I said no to Tupac.
I mean,
only because he's from New York.
In the moment, Tupac was humongous. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But that's a direct result of
Well, I just say
what Dre did and all
he was
that,
from
right?
New York, and we can argue. I know they're gonna kill me in the comments. Tupac was New York, Baltimore.
He spent way more time on the East Coast than he did on the West Coast.
He did, and then Corrupt is also from Philadelphia. So in that battle, we lose too. So now you're down to Dr. Dre and Snoop, which are pinnacles.
It's hard to beat Doggy Style album, man.
You can't beat it.
I mean, we can just go and look at what the East Coast guys pre-Doggy Style Chronic.
Yep.
It's like 30 dudes in the booth just yelling choruses.
Yeah.
You remember that time? Remember the booth yelling with a bunch of dudes?
Yeah, that was the thing.
I never did that before.
I did it. We all like,
we gonna fuck them up.
Yep.
You were one of those guys in the back.
Because we were...
So think of what that was. And then think of when Chronic comes out and Biggie makes Big Papa.
Facts.
Which doesn't... They clearly just wanted to make the Chronic in Doggy Style. Like, that was a fake version of that. Now, he was amazing and the songs are amazing, but, like, conceptually, we don't even get that.
Yeah, but it was just so many, like, groups. And you look at some of the... And, I don't normally champion every editor and every writer in a magazine.
Yeah.
But one of my favorites is Riggs Morales, right? And if I had to talk to him about it, most of the things we're going to see in a magazine... They say one of the greatest songs in hip hop history is Shook Ones, right?
Yeah.
That was the 90s. But we also had Nothing But a G thing. So I'm conflicted in saying either one won. But I'm glad a West Coast person said the West Coast won.
I mean,
because I had a lot of West Coast people like, man, the East held it.
It's also my lived experience here, right? Mm-hmm. Like, they weren't really playing a lot of East Coast stuff. It just wasn't really, you weren't hearing that out.
Facts.
Like, the E40 in a major way, Mac Mall, all that stuff was playing way more than any East Coast music out here. And the South was playing it too. They weren't playing that East Coast stuff either. So
West Coast.
And the Midwest. Mm-hmm. So really it was just that small area that, and they dominated media. So
it sounded the best. Like I always tell people that Dr. Dre was probably one of our best engineers of all time in music.
I mean, when you play stuff on Death Row now, compared to like a new record, it's still beating it.
And I'd be like, man, I still have yet. I don't know, they might have them, but I'm blind to it. They might not have a Death Row song and remastered album because it was mastered well. I had to see them.
Right. It's not like they had to go clean it up.
It wasn't a remaster like you see some of our East Coast records, but it was dusty and it was digital.
I think the West Coast stuff has aged better in a way too because it was more based around melody.
That's right.
You know, like a lot of the stuff I love, I kind of think of like more like underground crate music. It's kind of like just weird sounds and drums. And I love that shit, but like it doesn't really have melody, right? It's just rapping and drums and noise, right? And those guys, they were just doing a more palatable version, you know? And over time, you know, I'm always gonna love all the East Coast stuff, like the Beatnuts, early albums, and obviously Mobb Deep. All that stuff is amazing. Wu-Tang, like
incredible.
Wu-Tang, I remember, you know, RZA had the ASR, right? And at first we were kind of like, man, he didn't figure out how to make it loop right. He didn't care.
He didn't care.
That was the genius, right?
He didn't care.
So it's like, it's about those disruptive people. You know, Dre brought the musicians in for Chronic and threw that high-ass lead on everything. And then everybody started doing it.
Crazy.
Music didn't sound like that before then.
Crazy, man. Crazy. I'm going to go off and show my age. This is the land of the Supersonics. I'm here in Seattle with my man Jake One at his goat farm right here on BackTrak. We're going to get into the process. I've seen a lot of YouTubes where you've done every damn record. So I was like, what record are we going to do? What are we going to make special, like, for the people? I'll let you introduce it. I didn't say it at first. I'm going to let you go through it.
So I've gotten a ton of requests for this one, and I just didn't do it yet because, I don't know, I just did. But it's J. Cole and 21 My Life.
Dope. This is a record that I wouldn't expect you to have done.
Right.
Why would I feel like that?
Well, I mean, the big thing is the version that I made had different drums.
Yeah.
So they ended up changing the drums on the song, which made it not sound as much like, you know, my signature thing.
Right.
Which is one of those things like they probably made it a bigger song by doing that. I mean, if I'm being real, so.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to that. Yeah. So I'm like one of the few people, they used to get mad at me because I said I give out stems. I don't care who it is. If anybody said, if you hit me and be like, yo, I heard this beat that I fuck with, I feel like I want to do something to it, I'll send you the stems. Right. I never was the person like, I ain't sending you my stems. I don't let you, like, I was never that person, bro.
I'm that way too at this point. I think I've done it a ton of times. We keep doing it. Like, it's just one thing.
Facts,
like,
bro.
We'll be back. You know what I mean? Like, so, and especially somebody like Cole, who you know, I've already worked with him. We have a real relationship, personal. So, like, I trust he knows what he wants to do best for his music to make the best song. Yeah, so, like, that isn't necessarily what I'm always going to hear. So, I just get out the way sometimes, you know what I mean?
Right. I think this is coming in a good space when everybody's popularizing the ASR 10 right now.
Yeah.
I still see the floppies. I still see you haven't put a SD card.
No, I got one in here.
Okay.
But it's hooked up to the SCSI.
I was like, damn, was that a jazz drive?
No, we got one of those over there too.
So the floppies are still there. Favorite beat you've made on the ASR has to be?
I mean, probably Rock Cocaine Flow.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I think so.
You had a lot of fun making that.
And it's just, that's the one that got me my first real motion.
Gotcha.
And that's, people came to me because I made that.
Right.
It was the first time making something people were like, oh shit. You know, and then you want to get that feeling again.
Right. My Life, what was the first step? Was it something that Cole was like, yo, I need something, and you were going to create? Or is it was like, I just feel like creating today, I'll make something, whoever it lands?
You know, nobody ever gives me any direction on anything with beats. So, like, I don't.
That's a good thing. That means like, yo, he's that guy.
He just like send me shit.
Yeah.
Like, and that's kind of my relationship with all these dudes. So, let me get the record.
Yeah.
That's the first obvious one.
Yeah. Okay. Gospel time.
Reverend Walter McDaniel and the Gospel Wind.
He was fresh too on Champ.
On Champ. Champ is a ill label because they
that logo.
These are like people's kind of self-release records.
Yep.
Like from churches and stuff.
Yep.
So I got this record from my boy Quinn, who has a store called Funk Trunk.
Okay.
And there was another song on
this. Is that out here?
No, it's in Virginia, actually.
In Virginia, okay.
Yeah, it's just a homie I met. And there was another song he had on his IG. I'm like, that's fire. I was like, let me get that. So I think I bought it for like, I don't know, $175 or something. But it wasn't what I ended up sampling for My Life. It's a whole nother song. So I got the record. And yeah, I just chopped it up one day, made the beat, sent it to him. It wasn't like, yeah, this is this. He's like, send me the session for that. Cool.
Was it
I didn't really hear nothing for a while, though.
Okay. That's what I was about to say. Was it one of those joints where he was like, yo, hold this? Because
maybe he told me that like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later.
Okay.
And, you know, guys have busy lives,
That's
much
right.
busier than I. So, you know, I'm just appreciative that I even have their ear. So
yeah.
I don't press, you know, rappers. But, yo, you listen
I
to
don't
the
need
beats.
that. I forget that I even give them the pack sometimes. And they call me back like, yo, put this on hold. Yo, yo, I did something to this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's good to know. You'd be like, yeah, I won't give the beat to nobody. Like, cool. Like, let's do that. But yeah, it's funny, man. Like this was definitely like a harder beat and a darker beat than I have been making, which is probably why it worked.
Right.
What he was going, because I remember I'd sent him some beats before. He's like, man, these beats sound like more like, you know, what Ross does. Like, you know, it's like too rich. And I'm thinking like, you're rich though.
Too rich is crazy.
But that's not what he wanted to do with this project. So
I noticed you went straight to the record. You have this categorized, like what was that all
gospel's
about?
up there, you know.
But you know exactly where it's at.
Most of them,
Most of
sometimes, yeah.
Okay. I noticed that. I'm like, how did you go directly to the record? I don't see A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yeah, there's
nothing.
There's, I don't know, probably 6 other gospel records up there.
We already talked about stems and not mine and Cena, standout. Do you prefer, or are you like a antichrist on searching YouTube or places for samples, or you like it has to come from a record?
Oh, I don't care. I mean, I think at this point, we can't be having rules. Like, oh, you know, like it just... I personally probably sample records more or stuff I made off stems, but it's hard enough to make a good song. So like however that comes to be.
Right.
Now, what's cool about like that particular record is that shit wasn't on YouTube.
Right.
There was no audio of that anywhere on the internet. So nobody's going to make the same beat as me likely because
you got to find
that,
it.
right?
Yeah.
So that's like an advantage of just being record dude sometimes.
Yeah.
You know.
The original sample, do you have a piece of it before you chopped it?
Yeah.
Let's play.
It's not really, I wouldn't say I did anything that crazy to it. Let me see. Use a little thing to slow it down a little bit because I didn't want to pitch it all the way.
Right.
So it was like part of the intro of the song. So I just did the split it up. And it's more like just making it fit timing wise to get that turnaround to be maximum impact, right? This is kind of the ASR thing though. Like,
facts.
Who starts their beat on a drum roll? I do. Like, that's some weird shit I'll do. Like, I remember when I did Loaded Basses, Nippa hit me and was like, where's the one at on this beat? And I was like, I don't know. Wherever you want it to be.
Yeah, bro.
I'm cool with it. Rap to how you feel. So, like, the choruses were never coming in the right place.
Right.
Which can sometimes be a problem with that, but I'm always trying to do unpredictable shit like that. I got like 10-bar beats.
Right.
You know.
I do too. I got 13-bar beats.
Yeah.
I got, because of the ASR.
Yeah.
That's just how it was, bro.
Anything to make it less predictable.
Yep. And one thing I found out about this versus some of the FL, some of the Reason, some of that stuff, when that clicker goes off, you have to start. You have to start. Here, I didn't have to start. Like, my sample will be so off in the beginning and just loop around perfectly and could never figure it out.
I mean, there's times I'll play the click track with the beat I made and it sounds really bad. And it's like, okay.
It's a roundabout 81, but it's going 84.
When you hear it on its own, you're like, yeah, that shit's grooving.
Yeah. So the first step was the sample, right? Yeah. Do you like going sample first, drums first, or is it?
I always go sample first because I just think drums are so much easier to do for me. Mm-hmm. And I like programming the drums around what the sample is doing. Mm-hmm. So like, I knew that was just something I could build into. Mm-hmm. And then to have
And this is obviously the vocal era of Jake.
Yeah.
You're like,
this is, you know, there was a point where I was like, I'm not sampling Goss no more. I burnt it out. And then that record was just so good, I did it again. And then I ended up making the biggest song I ever made. So
when you're clearing a sample like this, even the gospel, were you like, please clear this sample? Because it's like, the gospel is the hardest thing to clear.
You know, they couldn't even find the people. So the song was out for a minute without the sample being cleared. Of course, they heard that shit and they came and everything was made right.
And it was like, that's what we was waiting for. We was waiting for you to come out the woodworks and find us.
Right,
we wanted the clear sample.
But like, just to position Cole's in, he can put a song out with an unclear sample because he's like, this is my favorite record I have. I want to.
He can afford it.
So like, maybe if this is a different artist, the song never happens.
That's right.
So yeah,
respectable guy too. It's not like you're calling him and you're trying to get clearance on the sample and he's cussing you out. Like he's definitely intelligent. He definitely has a purpose in music.
Even just the way he handled all this, because that's some dicey shit to have.
That's right.
Unclear sample on a big record. The way he handled that, just A1. Like I don't know. He's just. Yeah. He's a good dude. He's just a rare person that actually lives up to the hype of what his public perception
classic
is.
Dude, man. I've always had a great experience with him, man. Even in our long battles in music, you know what I'm saying? To have somebody like that clear a sample is probably gonna go well more than somebody that's irate. You know
right. Or just blatantly just disrespectful or whatever it is,
I got into clearing samples before I sent the beats out for a little bit, but it was costing me more than the record was costing me. You ever thought about that?
Nah, because I just don't want that to taint my creativity. Right. Like, a lot of people will ask me this, and it's like people have never landed a beat, and they'll be like, man, with the sample. I'm just like, dog, get one first. That's the hard thing to do.
Say that again. Get one first.
Like, it's so much harder to get one than a clear sample. If something is making money, you will find a way to clear a sample.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like,
and if they take all your publishing, they took all your publishing. It's just what it is.
I hate that part of it. It's like, bro, send me stuff with no sample. I get it, but it's like, it's about creation. Whatever I send you, if I'm gonna send you something me playing, I'm gonna send you a sample, just make the song first and we fight the battle after.
Right, let's not worry about that.
Yeah.
Like, let's be creative, do the dopest thing we can do, and then worry about it. Like, it seems like a lot of people waste so much energy on that part that you're wasting your energy you could put into making a good record.
Man. All right, so the first part is the sample. Let's get into the sequence of it. Do you tempo out stuff, or you just, like I said?
Yeah, definitely. Oops. That's the problem with these, like, trying to remember what the hell you did.
It happens. That's the magic of it. See how you had to do that? In Pursuers, it went around that, it just turned around for you. We had to always stop it real quick.
Yeah. That's the only way I know. That's the only way I know. So yeah, I started with that. That was kind of the obvious thing to do to me. And then I have all these different percussions, right? So this is actually the Money Dance drums. I've used those so many times.
And you put those out.
I put them out. And I made my own version of it again.
Right, and it's amazing to see. I'm like, oh, he actually stemmed out his drums and gave them to the public. Yeah. That's unselfish.
I mean, it just was like, part of me was thinking I won't use them anymore.
And then you went back.
But this was, 10 years later, right? I went back to them.
Right.
I don't know why I went back to them, but yeah, for something about it, I heard those kind of breakdowns and stuff with that. But yeah, I mean, I hear my sounds on everything. Like, sometimes when I put out like a drum loop and it's just like they just use the drum loop, I'm like, ooh, I kind of fucked up. I should have came for on that one.
You should.
But it's like if I'm just gonna say it's for the people, it's for the people.
Yeah, I'm glad
I'm being greedy being that way. You know what I mean?
And I wanted to talk to people on camera about this. If you're selling something on the internet or you're giving it to the people, if that becomes the next Madonna, We Are the World, Michael Jackson, bro, we put it out to the world for y'all to have, man. I don't want to come back, you did use that thing. If I get a license and I'm selling a license, let it be what that is, bro. Don't come back like, I need a part of that. It's Doja Cat feature. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be out there and, you use my loop, cool, I fucked up.
See, and I think like you know, if we're talking about some music I played, that's a little different.
Yeah, I'm talking strictly.
But just like a drum thing, I don't know, man. Yeah. It's just not in the tradition of what I come from to like,
right.
Like, that's my snare that and you know, the way I do chop a snare on here and envelope it, it is my thing. And I could tell it's mine because I know the process of them behind it.
That's a fact.
And I know if you got it off the record, it still don't sound the way I made it sound.
That's a fact.
So when I hear people use it, I'm like, that's me.
Word.
You know,
Word.
and some of them, there's been a couple of big songs that have used them. So
yeah. Hey man, glory to y'all.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Congratulations. So the drums, is this something that you played and just sampled your play? Did you find it out?
Nah, these are all like different. Well, these are the toms off Money Dance.
Yeah.
Same hi-hat. And then this is another like just breakdown I chop because I just don't want to like have it do the same thing all the time. So I'm gonna break it up so I can just make whatever pattern I want.
The human drummer.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I can't do it. It's like it's also like so segmented, like little pieces here and there.
Right.
It's not like I just sit down. Like you see these dudes now, and they're like, you know, just playing a whole beat, you know, and they'll be hang gliding or some shit. Like, you know, it's always there's like this whole new generation of like dudes that do that, right? It's like, yo, I'm on top of a building somewhere and I'm making a beat. I'm just like, I don't know if it really works that way.
Bro. I'm not doing that, bro.
No, I'm not doing it either. So I just remember starting with this drum roll on the first part. Hold on. That's what it is. And just starting with that.
Interesting, you started with the turnaround. It's ridiculous.
Didn't catch it. What's the BPM on this? All right. So yeah, the turnaround's the most interesting part of every beat I do to me.
Yeah, it is.
I have fun with that, but then you got to give them the like part they can rap to. This like not as much a look at me moment. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like in a band when the drummer's doing too much, they'd be like, slow him down. Slow him down.
He was high. He was high. And it's the infamous bass line.
Yeah.
This is what I call it. He's a bass line champion. Even before you learn, when you said learn from Coop about playing notes, you were always great at bass. I always loved the bass line.
That's that West Coast, I think. Listen to all that West Coast stuff. It was so bass line oriented. And I just wanted to put that in hip hop, or at least the kind of hip hop I was doing. I feel like Dilla was the first one to do it with the dirty sounds, you know what I mean? Him and Sermon before him, obviously, but they always had bass lines that were kind of like
Sermon, bass lines on Muddy Waters and all, man. Whew.
Some of my favorite. That's one of my favorite albums.
I just felt like so cohesive, though. Tuned, everything was just magnificent.
Sound.
Then, again, Jay Dilla came, and then High Tech came. The way they just programmed the bass lines is just crazy. So coming from that and to hearing your bass lines, like I always I consider myself somebody that didn't have perfect pitch.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
me neither. I'll put some off-ass shit in there sometimes.
I mess up and think like, damn, that note, I'll hear it in the studio like, damn, that bass line note is terrible, but it works. You know what I mean? And Pharrell told me one day we was working, he was like, bro, I be doing it too, but shit, that's the magic in it. Like some shit, just hip hop is supposed to be like that. It's some tuning.
It is really like when they were on the SP1200 and you're limited to pitch, speed, all these things, like those things being a little out of whack is the magic, right? Like I don't even,
So you went. So you all ass backwards. You're fucking. You turn around. Then you're going to the bass line. All right, go ahead. I'm just like, damn. He's doing everything I would have did the opposite way.
And then, I think with the rest of the drums, like, oh, I need to put some 808s in my beats. This might be the Southside 808.
Yeah.
But it's in the ASR, so it's a little different.
Right.
The right one?
The texture between the 808 and having a bass line is
I like mixing the two things, you know what I mean? To like make it so, because there is a competing thing on sound. Like if every other song is just, like I want one of them in there usually. I don't know, it's weird. Recently I haven't been doing them at all. I've been super anti it, but at this point, that's what I was doing. The next thing I did was this kind of hi-hat chop that I think is off one of B Butch's kids. He gave me this around this time. Oops. Fuck that up too.
Magic Man.
Get back to that. I mean, to me, that was like, that's what made it be dope.
Magic.
And you could be hearing it this way, you're like, oh, this sounds like one of your beats.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
When you were doing this originally, how long you think it took you to make it?
maybe like 20, 25 minutes. Yeah, it's quick, probably. I give up on a beat quick too if I don't like it.
Yeah.
If it's not happening fast enough.
For real, what do you do? You save it?
Sometimes if like just one part of it is good, I'll save it.
Okay.
But I'll go through my discs, like my zip disk, and be like, I don't even remember making some of this shit, you know? Kick and snare, maybe. That's Money Dance.
Awesome.
That's the one kick.
This definitely has a different.
Totally different, right?
The sound is incredible though. Let's bring me back to. Get back on your machine, bro. That's what I'm on mine. Like, get back on your machine. The texture sound different.
So yeah, and then I added these two. Oops. It's on the same track.
It's so open for a rapper to get on it. I can understand why Cole said this was one of his favorite beats on that album. You know what I'm saying? I noticed you don't have the 8 outs.
You know, I have them. I just haven't used them in a long
Do
time.
you use them to track out?
Nah,
you just track out
I've been
one by
tracking
one?
to it like one song. I'll play it all in one sequence and then just solo each sound and then put it back together.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that.
Just got lazy with it. I don't know. Like,
I don't feel like
just didn't
digging
want
through
to
that
have
shit
the
to get
whole board occupied with that.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to hook up keyboards and stuff. But
Yeah.
But yeah, this is kind of the root of what I sent him.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's an amazing record. I love that record actually. And to hear 21 go in there and go crazy,
Yeah,
something different.
I think he's another one. Sometimes when he gets on the right kind of beat, like obviously a lot was similar.
Yeah.
Those two songs are kind of like.
Yeah, his voice has great texture, especially with samples. I wish he would rap on more samples because they sound so good together. You know.
Right. I think just the unexpected nature of like somebody like that being on like a dirty sample like that, it just works.
Yeah, it does work. After the process was done, did you have to send him an MP3? How'd you do it? You text it to him?
Yeah, I just sent him. It was just like a pack of beats, like I always do. It was probably in like 10 other beats. Just send him a Dropbox, and then there was other ones he recorded too from that time, but this ended up being the one stick. And then he asked for the sample clearance and all that. But I didn't even know 21 was on it till the end, and I wasn't even sure what song it was on the album. I'm here. I'm not like I was actually playing golf like right before it came out, and I seen the thing, and I'm like, oh, My Life, that's the one. I'm like, oh shit, 21 Savage on it.
That's what I say about the golf course, man. Yeah. You go in there and they say that's where all the big time deals come up. You swing in there, you pick up the phone like, oh shit, My Life, hey. Yeah. And then back to swing.
I'm just losing money on the golf course. I'm paying to be out there.
That's funny. He's out there and they say, yeah, pick up the phone. Yeah, I just did $1 million deal. Found it. Yeah, J. Cole just hopped on. Shit. Let's get back to the.
I told my homies always, they kind of cared. They're old. They
He was like, oh yeah, good job, man.
They'd have been like, oh yeah, maybe Grand Poobah.
Oh shit.
They're more older guys.
They want you to work there. Like, man, I get that. The impact. Let's talk about the impact that the record had. Did your phone start ringing crazy?
Yeah, I think it was some people came back to me later. I don't know if it was anybody I didn't, and because I'd already worked with 21, I did 2 songs on his first album.
Yep.
It was more just like, man, when I seen the Hot 100, it was number 2. I was just shocked, because like, you don't make something like this thinking it's going to be in a top 10 anything, it's just not, it wasn't meant to be that. So that just felt good, like the.
Let's talk about Grammy nominations. How many?
Total? I think I've been nominated like 13 times and I won once.
You won once?
Yeah.
And you won
I'll show you something funny because I just found this under a pile of shit the other day.
Under a pile of shit?
Under some records.
A pile of shit. Fuck it. It was under some shit. Here you go. Under some shit. That's a good one. At least you had something over it.
Yeah. What was cool about this is I've been nominated a bunch of times for like various albums of the year, rap album. I think I got over album a couple times, but that was the first one I got for a song.
Right.
So that was cool. Went to the Grammys, we lost. It was normal shit.
Yeah. I think I was nominated every year for like 10 years straight and still didn't win. I started feeling like Spike Lee.
Right. I wanted to lose 20. Yeah. I was hoping to lose 20.
Come on, let's lose 20.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be cool. It just meant I was there for a lot of shit, right?
Yeah.
And weekend one for Starboy, which was cool, but I don't know. It's not like I did that beat by myself, so it's not as fulfilling.
Yeah.
I guess I would say, but it's still cool.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of the younger folks, they're actually striving for that moment.
Right.
It doesn't define me. I know it doesn't define me.
We didn't care about that shit at all.
Right. It just happened. And it felt like because I stopped caring. At first I was like, yeah, Grammy now. And I won 2 in 1 year one time a couple years ago, and I wasn't thinking about it. I was just going to get a bagel. And my phone started going off and they said, you won, bro. And I was like, it went automatically back to, damn, I won. Instead of, man, that ain't shit. I just don't feel like it should define what we do because we have those classics.
One, I think like the time we come from, I don't even think I knew who was nominated for a Grammy in 1995. Like, I don't think I even knew until I got nominated. I just wasn't paying attention. And it's funny that I got nominated for like a rock thing. Of course, it was the first one I did when Emil brought me in to do Fun. I worked on that. So, and I went because he was like, this is a big deal. He told me I should go. I didn't really know.
I went one time.
Yeah.
It was orchestra land. I was like, yeah, man, this is killing me. Take this suit off. I don't want to hear any more orchestra. I don't want to have no more pretzels in the lobby.
Well, I think when you go, you realize what it is and why, I'd say our people aren't really up in that thing. I always joke that, like, you know, Bob from Accounting and Interscope, he got way better seats than us, like,
Facts,
you know,
facts,
every time.
facts.
So you just realize this is a music business thing and it's a trophy for them. And then the other part is, like, if you're not on a major label, you have no shot because they're just lobbying votes throughout the buildings, right?
Right.
So it's you know, it's something to be happy about if it happens to you, but it should not be your barometer of success, to me.
Right. Let's talk about hanging it up one day. You have a daughter. Has she touched the equipment? Has she ever get into a space where, Dad, I'm ready to go. I want to learn. I want to do.
My daughter played viola on the new Tuxedo album.
Nice.
Reluctantly. But she's actually way better at playing piano than I am. Right. I guess that's not saying much, but she's actually a really good piano player, and she's playing viola. She's good, man. She's really good. I don't know if she's gonna want to do this.
Yeah.
The other day she told me I was like, what are you gonna do with your life? You know? And she was like, I might do what you do. And I'm like, really? I wouldn't have thought of that.
Whoa.
So
really?
yeah,
Okay.
she'll be doing music for anime or something. It won't be what I do.
She's
not really into rap or none of that. So the funny thing about, like, hanging it up is I think about it all the time. I'm like, I'm 49. You know, I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
And I definitely have periods where I'm just like, yeah, I'm not doing this. I might not do anything for weeks at a time, you know?
Right.
But, like, you know, I had knee surgery in December and I was laid up for like 5 days. And why did the first thing I did when I could move was make a beat? It's not like I was really, I just feel like I'm always going to be doing this, whether I'm giving people beats, selling music, whatever. This is probably something that I'm just going to do forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in things happen for those reasons. And I feel like, you know, not that you're supposed to have a meniscus issue, but it sat you down because you probably in that moment was like, man, I haven't done nothing in 3 or 4 weeks. And then it's like, bro, God was like, sit down and make those. I got something for you coming.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think those times coming. So I always tell people too, I don't think I'll hang it up. I think I'll hang up the industry.
Right.
You know,
that's the part that's frustrating to all
yeah.
of us, right? Like,
yeah. I don't fuck with that part, but creating is still something that will carry on. I know my grandfathers, like, they loved building things. Like, they loved going to carry on.
Right.
When they got 60 years old, 70 years old, where they couldn't pick up beams and stuff no more. And
they still just wanted to hammer some shit.
They wanted to hammer some shit. They wanted to be around. They wanted to tell people, yo, pine wood here goes on this type of roof. And, you know, so I don't think it'll disappear. It never disappeared in Quincy. It's just a question I always ask.
I think about all the time that, like, it was really weird for me to have all the success in my 40s. Like, I feel like the most success I had was in my 40s. And, like, in rap years, you're like 700. So
that's what I'm saying.
I don't know, man. Like, I legitimately, I just try to find ways to have fun with it. And we're all competing, you know. I mean, I want to make something that you're going to call me over, you know what I mean? Or, you know, that's the goal always. Yeah. But, you know, you have to trust whatever your thing is, and if you're great at that.
Yeah, I definitely thought in my 40s I was going to be.
Right.
I started going like this. I'm like, damn, it's getting better. I'm on the 4th floor.
But you know?
Yeah, I'm like, what's going on? Before we get out of here, tell the people where they can find you. You have extensive stuff on the internet where you went through this. I wouldn't say tutorial, but I would just say, yo, you feed your fans without a pause. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I have a bunch of beat breakdowns on Snare Jordan on YouTube. I show stuff on Instagram sometimes. You know what's funny? Like, I will just, out of feeling lazy, start posting a beat. You know, I'll be like, damn, I need to, man, people think I'm just playing golf all the time. Damn, let me just make it beat real quick. Play. All right, I'm leaving. I'm going to golf again. But, yeah, Jake Uno on all the socials, Snare Jordan YouTube. You know.
Snare Jordan is classic, by the way.
Yeah, shout out to my boy RC for giving me Snare Jordan.
9 volumes? What volume?
Yeah, 9 volumes.
Yeah.
I got a new one done. I just haven't felt like dropping it for whatever reason.
Is it lucrative?
It was lucrative in the early days, for sure. But then it was kind of like, yo, I don't want to be the drum kid, dude. Like, I want the music to be what I'm important for. So I probably pulled back from it a little bit because it just felt a little...
Yeah, I'm a drum kit man.
Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't feel that great in that way. But you also kind of just got to take all these things as they come. And
That's right.
then I got to share this stuff with all these other people, make money, and then push myself
Yep.
to create new shit is great.
It takes one person to be like, yo, Jake Warren, the drum guy? Take one time. We still in supersonic land, man. My director's stomach over here. God, he must be hungry. You know what I mean? So we're going to get out of here. Jake Uno, Don Cannon, the Goat Farm in Seattle. Another BackTrak.